Hey, Jack Willard here with you. The title of our video, Trump Derangement Syndrome dash Kamala. That's our subjects for this talk. In these crazy, crazy times that we live in. I want to say right at the outset, we try to keep our speech here tempered, fair, reasonable. We can dislike a person as a candidate, but we're not slinging hate here. I don't have the permission to sling hate. Being a Christian, I have to forgive. If I don't forgive, I won't be forgiven. So we're not doing that here. I saw hate on display big time as I talked to you on a Friday just yesterday, which would be lost my calendar. Here it is. That would be Thursday, the 25th. I saw hate outside of the Capitol in Washington, D.C., as the Israeli Prime Minister was addressing Congress without the president or vice president being there for the address. It's been such a packed week in news. And but what we saw out in the streets was real hate. Yes, you can burn an American flag, but you can't burn someone else's American flag, like the one that's flying high in the capital area, and replace it with the Gaza flag. You can't do that, but yet they did. Police at some point rushed in. By then, they had already spray painted one of the monuments, and they had burned a flag in the street, which wasn't theirs, and caused a lot of havoc. There were a number of people finally arrested, but we just heard that 11 of them, the charges have been dropped. So that sends a signal for more hate. That sends a signal that you can get away with this. And that's the times that we're living in. As we look at this past week, we saw the President of the United States. He decided on Sunday of last weekend that he would bow out, that he would drop out of the presidential race. We heard all along how capable he was, how he was the candidate. He was going to do this. Joe Biden wasn't going anywhere. But when the Obamas and Chuck Schumer and other high ranking people, including the DNC itself, say it's time for you to go, you have to change your mind. But it wasn't long before that Joe Biden was screaming at a meeting, yelling at people, saying that he wasn't going anywhere, and he resented the proposition that he leave. For someone who has dementia, it's not uncommon to yell and even scream. And I'd have to say, for someone who has anxiety, you have to watch that you don't do that as well. We can all find ourselves behaving badly. We can all fall. I'm talking about physically fall. We can trip over our words and what have you. But what we saw, of course, was, it was becoming unavoidable to notice that the president was in serious decline. But yet he's going to be president, conceivably, till the end of January the 19th, 2025. And one thing I noticed about President Biden is that he is determined to find a way to get his way. And now he's targeting the Supreme Court. He wants to have, well, he'd like to pack the court, is what he'd like to do, but he has no time to do that in 5 months. Um, he said there needs to be ethics laws, and the Supreme Court shot a memo out saying we have ethics laws, Mr. President. We have ethics laws. It is just spectacularly unfair to keep your mouth shut and smile when a decision goes your way, and to want to abolish it when the Supreme Court, the highest court in the land, goes against you. That's not America. That's not how we do things. But yet, he's had some success in forgiving student debt, even though the Supreme Court ruled against it. He found a backdoor way to do that. And of course, the budget just goes up and up and up. I always heard about the tax and spend Democrats even when I was a little boy, but we've never seen such an example of it in 3.5 years. Everybody is saying that. And it'll be, as William Devane says, very hard to dig out of this for future generations. And of course, then the question is there even going to be future generations? So, Kamala decided not to go to the Prime Minister's address, which many said was a wonderful, historic speech. Mostly Republicans, I'm sure, saying that, because every Democrat is afraid, to speak, even if they would agree with what Netanyahu said. But she chose to go to a sorority event instead. And, of course, President Biden wasn't there either. So it sends a terrible message. But she and I think about 30 progressive or progressive sympathizing Democrats didn't attend the speech. Rashid did. She didn't. Well, I guess I'll give her kudos for that. So she was able to hear Netanyahu, if you want to say it right, or Netanyahu, detail the horrors of October 7th, right, in Israel of last year, describing in no uncertain words that there were babies that were burned, put into microwaves, beheadings, rapes, people dragged living and dead into the dark corners of Gaza. This was a terrible thing. And yes, Israel should have been more prepared for that. That goes against Netanyahu. They should have been more prepared, both at the border and also throughout the country. That music festival should have had armed Israeli soldiers there. So they were caught unprepared. American intelligence failed, and certainly Israeli intelligence failed, because they were training Hamas. The real bad guys was training for months, not that far from the Gaza-Israeli border. With the technology we have today, we should have spotted that. So the Prime Minister was detailing, with Rashid sitting there, everything that was going on, everything that had gone on in Israel, and the protesters that were, in many cases, turning violent right outside the Capitol. And he talked about a sign that he had seen called, someone was holding up this sign, Gays for Gaza. He said how little sense that made. They hang gays from cranes. They hang them from cranes. They torture and kill homosexuals, transgenders, lesbians, whatever you want to call it, in the LGBTQ community. They kill them. That's not how we are here in the United States. If you want to be gay, you have a right to be gay. If you want to be transgender, you have a right to be transgender. But you don't have a right to destroy female sports. You don't have a right, it would seem, to twerk in front of little kids in full drag costume. What are we doing? What are we doing here in 2024? Is this all signs of the last days? Of course it is. Of course it is. So he said, that that's what they do to gays in Arab nations, including Gaza. And he says that's like seeing a sign that says chickens for KFC. Chickens for KFC. Doesn't make any sense, does it? I've seen billboards with a chicken on it that says eat more beef. I've seen that. So these protesters are not very educated. They're just out there. Maybe their family taught them to be hateful towards Jews, and that's so sad. And they don't care of the atrocities that happened on October 7th. It is a fair point that when you're going in to get Hamas in Gaza, that you have to be as careful as you can not to kill civilians. And I know many civilians, including children, have been killed. I don't like that either, especially when you're on the ground. You can kind of alert any air defense as to where they should not be bombing. But I'm not an Israeli commander. I'm not a prime minister. I just know you have to be careful. So after she shunned the prime minister, you have to understand this is one thing that's going on now. It'll be a totally different Kamala. The speeches will be totally different. It won't be word salad anymore and giggling. Those days are over, you see, because now very gifted writers are writing speeches for her and loading it into a teleprompter, and she will read it. And she won't go off script, I don't think, too much, I don't think she'll go off script too much. So you're going to see a different Kamala as they try to do a total makeover on her. But it's the policies, not only what she said before and her behavior for 3.5 years as the vice president of the United States, but it's also the policies that she endorsed, not only as VP, but when she was the Attorney General and when she was a senator in California. And you will see not only a record of failure, very low energy, you might say. You'll see atrocities. You'll see decisions that were made that kept black people in prison way longer than they should have been, if they had even should have been, even for marijuana. That's crazy. And just being very dictatorial, and not compassionate, laughing when she was asked whether she ever smoked marijuana. Tulsi Gabbard will be out there a lot, I'm sure, speaking at various Republican events, because she knows Kamala real well, and she gave her a technical knockout, right, in words when they debated. Kamala, after that, never even made it to the first primary. She had 0 committed delegates, and when Joe Biden makes his announcement. She gets on the phone with everybody else. They say they're for democracy. Well, it hadn't been 24 hours and she had secured those Democrats. She wasn't going to let Gavin Newsom or even Michelle Obama slip in. And today we had Michelle and Barack Obama endorsing her on a cell phone. You could hear them saying, "We're very proud to endorse you, Kamala." So, and of course, she likes to call the 45th president the convicted felon, convicted really on a bookkeeping error, which is a misdemeanor. They turned into 34 felonies. We have to keep our eyes on, I think it's July 11th, Judge Marchand. Now he's saying he was accosted by one of the Trump lawyers. So what's going to happen there? Is the Supreme Court going to have to step in there? We don't know how outrageous everybody can be. But Trump derangement syndrome is a real thing. People would rather see the country destroyed than vote for Donald Trump again. Just yesterday, I saw some older senior citizens, maybe a little older than me, in Pennsylvania, the great state of Pennsylvania. In fact, I think it might have been Brett Baer that was interviewing them. And they were saying that they were very hopeful Kamala would win. One older gentleman who was not a radical in any way, shape, or form said, "Do you think that it's possible?" He says, "I'm not too sure about that, but I hope she can win. I hope she can win." See, this is a time where you have to put aside what you think of Donald Trump's personality. And I would bring up the point to you, he's a lot different than he was in 2015. Oh, he still has the bravado. He still has a go and attack because he knows everything is on the line. But he is certainly more knowledgeable about government. He has better plans than ever for the United States. He's not for a total ban on abortion in all the states. He's for the states having control. He's for 15 weeks. He's for all the exceptions for a woman. But he's not for partial birth abortion. No, he's not for that. He's not for that. And each state gets to work it out. So returning, in a sense, power to the people and power to which state you want to live in. We know that Kamala is all in on the Green New Deal that Trump now calls the Green New Scam. Everybody from Elon Musk to a plethora of people that are in the know have in detail told you that an all-electric vehicle thing is impossible. Electric trucks, which would mean they have to stop for a recharge between New York and L.A. about 6.5 times. They would be so heavy, so who knows how much electric they would really use, that you'd have to rebuild all the bridges. Electric motors in boats could cause the boat to sink, and Trump says if you're out there in the ocean, you're going to have to decide whether you want to be electrocuted or by staying with the boat, or jump and be eaten by the sharks. There's so many things. They have wasted billions of dollars on charging stations, and they've only made 9 of them. It was supposed to make hundreds and hundreds. They've only made 9, and 2 of them don't work. It's just insanity. Here in the state of New York, starting in January 2025, this is why I want to live in a free state, you will no longer be able to purchase a gas-powered lawnmower or weed whacker or anything else. Electric grids will be going down, and of course, to build an electric car, you're using fossil fuels. You're using that technology. So Trump wants to make it simply a choice. The progressives, with Kamala in the lead, have a whole bunch of laws that they want to enact, a whole bunch of new laws. It's the opposite of democracy, which kind of makes them brilliant in a sense. If you are fighting against democracy, just say it's the other guy that's against democracy, and a certain amount of people will believe you. This is not something where we can have just a casual notice, a casual examination of what a Harris presidency would mean. We can see a lot of it by looking at the Biden-Harris presidency. Joe Biden, the worst president, I believe, in my lifetime, perhaps ever, they say. And Jill Biden has no love for Kamala Harris. She didn't want her to be the pick. I don't know why she didn't get her own way on that. Didn't want anything. But now she says, with no explanation about Joe, he didn't have an explanation either as to why he's leaving. She said, trust Kamala like you trust Joe. Well, I can technically do that, which is, I don't have trust. I don't have trust. I don't have hate. I don't have hate. Let's hope we don't start labeling all opposing viewpoints as hate. We know hate speech when we see it. We know when it's over the line, and you won't be hearing it from me. I hope they don't start to say what Mark Levin does is hate speech, because it's not. This man loves America, and he sees it going down the tubes, and he wants that changed. So Trump derangement syndrome is something that needs to be re-examined, because the alternative could mean the end of America, in my personal opinion, as we know it. It won't just be Kamala. It'll be all the people around her, and there'll be people that will make her in the future months now sound a lot smarter than she has ever sounded before. People that I wouldn't expect are our beloved co-star of Dark Shadows, Catherine Lee Scott, came out in support of Kamala on Instagram. I still love Catherine Lee Scott. I still love Drew Barrymore, but I don't agree with their politics. I have posted on my site, I am not with her, with a picture of Kamala. I am not with her. Just think about the whole BLM time where they were burning cities, burning black businesses, terrorizing seniors having dinner in restaurants, burning police stations. And Kamala Harris said that needed to happen. And it's not going to stop, she said. It's not going to stop. And then she worked for them to be freed from prison and even get reparations. The founders of BLM are rich, living in mansions. So there you go. There's a million things we can talk about. But do I feel enough people are smart enough not to be swayed? I don't know. All I can tell you is I'm going to pray more than ever for the United States of America. And I'm going to watch less of the Kamala coverage, which means I'll end up watching less. I love to watch the Trump rallies. I love to hear opposing views if it's by a responsible person. But I know what they're going to be doing in the next few months, and it's not good for me to be watching all that. If I don't watch The View, I don't really want to see clips of The View, you know? I would never watch The View. I don't respect anybody on there. I respect their right to say what they say, but I don't respect them. I don't respect people that claim that they're a person of faith and then want to endorse darkness, You really got to look at every issue. Look at all of Kamala's past actions and statements before you go into the voting booth. But I know some people don't care about any of that. They're going to vote for her, and I'm not sure what's going to happen. That's in God's hands. That's in God's hands. So we need to pray. Trump derangement syndrome, and now here comes Kamala. God help us. God help us. We want to see more glory days for America. We want to see more glory days, not, a quick ride into the abyss that even the progressives themselves that haven't really thought things out won't like. They won't like what's going to happen in America. And think about your grandchildren. Think about your sister's grandchildren, whatever. It's really important. Jack the Fair Guy, Fair, Jack the Fair Guy at gmail.com is my address. For those of you that care about this country and are still watching, I appreciate your viewership. Hit the thanks button if you want to leave a tip. I appreciate that so much. I appreciate that so much, whether it's $1, $2, $5, or whatever you feel you can give. Thanks again, everybody. I'll talk to you real soon.